The call on the ice stands. We gotta go.
Up the colors. We are set to go.
Let's roll, boys. Come on, let's get going.
We are kicking.
Here we go. Both guys, 5 minutes each for fighting. Watch the blue. Play the puck. We're not doing this.
Hey. After further review, it's the Scouting the Refs podcast.
Yeah, baby.
Here's your hosts, Todd Lewis and Josh Smith.
Okay, gentlemen, play ball. Let's go.
All right, guys, let's drop the puck.
It's a wonky week because it is the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. I'm very thankful for being here again with you, Josh, to do another edition of the Scouting the Refs podcast. We've had an interesting first quarter of the season, and we've got a few things that we want to talk about this week, some of our old friends, and some new things, I think, that we haven't really touched on for a while.
You know, sometimes people are thankful for the officials, but oftentimes it is a thankless job. And sometimes we're thankful for the Department of Player Safety, and sometimes their decisions make us question how thankful we really are.
I don't know that they're offering Black Friday specials of take one suspension, get another one for free, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of days because that's usually
what a deal.
Scouting the Refs podcast. Of course, you want to follow on all the social channels at Scouting the Refs for Josh on X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, you name it, you got it. You'll find me at Todd Lewis Sports on many of these same platforms. Coming up on this week's episode, what is goalie interference? Suspension time? Is that a call? Isn't that a spear? And who knows what else we're going to come up with, because there's always plenty happening in the National Hockey League. It's just been a week already, I think.
I love the NHL schedulers, and Steve Hasenfratz is the guy in charge of it. It's, again, a thankless job. Nobody's giving him credit for the fun stuff he puts together. We have all those weird schedule quirks, but especially for a Canadian, I have to imagine it's just a bizarre week when you've got 15 games on Wednesday, nothing on Thursday, full card on Friday. You've just got all these games and crazy scheduling stuff. We start them early, we end them late. That just adds to the fun, which you know, Todd, and we've heard from folks in the Situation Room before of what a night it is when you've got 15 games on the schedule and all those activities to keep up with.
Activities. There's a title for the episode. Okay. First item I want to touch on, a sad one. We send our condolences to those that knew former National Hockey League referee Mike Hasenfratz. Mike's had a long, distinguished career in the National Hockey League. He sadly passed away this past week at the age of 58. Josh has got a really good look back on Mike's career on the scoutingtherefs.com website. Details how he fought back from some serious conditions to return to the ice. We send our sympathies and strength to all, but it's a really good story about Mike.
Yeah, thanks. And Mike, man, he went through a lot from, working his way up just to make it to becoming a National Hockey League referee, and then finding the heart condition that made him step away from the game for a couple seasons, including open heart surgery, a lengthy recovery, questioning sometimes if he was ever going to make it back. And then when he did, changing his number just to illustrate the significance of getting that second chance. And then later in his career, again, having other health issues that pulled him away from the ice. But man, the guy battled hard, and a great guy from folks I've been talking to, just, someone that they had lots of fond memories to share with him, about him, and, what a terrific guy he was, most recently living in the Nashville area. So, a sad bit of news there, but all the best to Mike's family, friends, to remember him fondly.
You touch on a topic there that I'm not sure everyone thinks of all the time, is how difficult and how hard it is to fight and get your way into the National Hockey League. We think about it for players, for coaches, for managers and other personnel, but not so much for officials. But they climb through the ranks. Often it takes quite a while before they make it to the top level.
Some people think it's a cushy job when you get up there. Oh, nobody questions what you do, and you're not accountable to anything. Well, it's a lot of work to get up there. There are very few positions. I mean, we've got 34, 35 jobs open, and any given year, 1, 2, maybe 3 positions open for a refereeing spot in the National Hockey League. So it's amazingly competitive, both from showing your decision-making, your skating ability, your positioning, all of that information, everything that has to go into being a National Hockey League referee and making it to the highest level there, and then staying there, keeping that conditioning, keeping that skill level and everything up to continue to be a National Hockey League official. It's not easy to do. And when you have those injuries, and we see them for players all the time, right? We have career threatening injuries, career ending injuries. we see how hard it is for guys to battle back. I mean, you look at players all around the league right now trying to come back from injuries or with recurring injuries like Mark Stone in Vegas. You see that. You see how hard it is for the players. And it's the same for the officials. It is not an easy path to come back. It is a physically demanding job. It is a hard one. And if you're not in tip-top shape, you simply can't be in the right position to make the right call. So it's incredibly hard to do. Mike made it, recovered from a life-threatening medical condition and made it back. So, kudos to him for just showing what it took to get there, what it takes to stay there. And, really illustrating that it is work. You are working all the time. It is not by any stretch, not an easy job.
No, absolutely not. So again, we send our sympathies to all. Let's get into a few game situations from this past week. And one I made a note of as I was watching the game because I thought it was really interesting. I thought it could clear up a lot of things. It could end a lot of confusion. I was watching the game with the Florida Panthers and the Colorado Avalanche this past week. Florida Panthers were down and they're trying to fight back late in the third period to try to tie the game. So there's a shot that heads towards the Colorado goal from the point. It's on the power play. It is immediately waved off for goaltender interference. Now, I'm watching the game with my dad, who looks up and he says, well, look, there was no pushing, there was no shoving, nothing was going on. And I said to him, you know what? This is going to be upheld right away. Matthew Tkachuk has his feet in the crease. He went in there by himself, and his presence there does not allow Georgiev to move out to the top of the crease. And I said, that's going to be goaltender interference. They're going to uphold this call. And I said, oh, no, it's going to go the other way. Sure enough, I got one right. It was goaltender interference, no goal.
Yeah, you're spot on, Todd. And I'm very proud that not only did you get the call right, but man, you're even you're citing the rule book conversationally at this point. So that in itself is impressive, but you're right. And you are absolutely right in your analysis. Tkachuk goes in there voluntarily. He establishes a presence in the blue paint, and that prevents the goalkeeper from doing his job. Rule 69 says it clearly that goals should be disallowed if an attacking player, by his positioning or by contact, impairs the goalkeeper's ability to move freely within his crease. And that's exactly what happened here. You're in there, you're taking up space, you're preventing Georgiev from freely accessing the entirety of that blue paint, his territory. He's allowed to go wherever he wants. And if you prevent him from getting somewhere, if you block him, like Tkachuk did, you're going to get a goal waved off. Now, there's no contact, so there's no chance of this being a penalty. Rarely do we see goaltender interference penalties, except when it's really egregious or there's more or less intentional physical contact. But if you look at the overhead, you can see Georgiev's stick gets caught on Tkachuk's leg, and that prevents him from moving in a certain direction. But that's not even necessary. The whole point is that this is no goal simply because Tkachuk is there, and that is enough to have a goal disallowed. So right call by the officials. I think you nailed it, that this is a textbook example of how goaltender interference can happen without contact, and getting the call right, even for your father. So well done, Todd.
Now, this is not to say that Matthew Tkachuk cannot go in the crease. He's allowed to do that. And Georgiev is also allowed to move about in the crease freely. It's when Tkachuk begins to impede the goaltender's progress. And if there was, say, a short video with a little narration and this kind of illustration that you just provided here, maybe that would help educate other people. Has the league done that sort of thing before? We're
starting to see a few of the player safety ones come out. We've seen some of the educational and rulebook videos that do show clips. I think it's hard because either folks aren't seeing it, and we'll reshare the goaltender interference explanation video the league put together a few years back, but every play is different and people are looking at different things. So when they've put together these montage videos of, these are goaltender interference or these are not goaltender interference, you have to call out why. In this case, you could have people fighting of, well, where was the contact? What was the contact? Was it the stick on Tkachuk's leg? No, this is just him being in the crease. And I think having that type of explanation comes in really handy when people are getting frustrated. Half the time, they're not even sure what they're looking at or which part of the rule are they evaluating or asking if there was contact. So I think, yes, these types of explanations would be handy. I would love if the Situation Room could maybe, when they're putting out that decision, to say there was no goaltender interference in the crease, well, maybe they could say there was goaltender interference because Tkachuk established a significant presence, tag the clip so that we can see the presence he established, and even clarify to say For this to be no goal, contact does not need to be made between the goaltender and the opposing player. Like you said, Tkachuk has every right to be in there, but Georgiev also has the right to go to the spaces he wants to go to. You're not making a judgment call of, well, would he have made the save, or did he need to go to the left, or did he need to go to the right, or those kinds of things. It's just making that judgment of, was he preventing the goaltender from moving freely? And that is enough. But yes, Todd, the explanation video would be amazing.
We await the
we're going to wait a while.
Okay. Now, another week, we did have another hearing this week. This one for Timo Meier of the New Jersey Devils in the game against the Nashville Predators. Devil shot goes into the goalie's chest protector. Meier does a little drive-by. Zach Werenski gives him a little, hey, don't get so close kind of shove. It was nothing serious, no big deal. However, Timo Meier took it personally because he turns around and initiates a series of cross-checks, and the second one lands right in Werenski's mouth, and down he goes. Meier gets tossed from the game. Hearing, verdict, 1 game. Couple things here. I think if this had been early in the game, it may have satisfied the 1-game suspension. That aside, I still think he should have received more than 1 game for this.
Well, if you talk to player safety, and we have, they will reaffirm, Todd, that when a penalty happens in the game or when an infraction occurs during the game, and whether or not a penalty is assessed does not affect their decision on whether or not that counts as a game or does not count as a game. They're making that ruling independent of whatever the penalty was in the game or independent of the time in which it occurred. So if it happens in the first period, if it happens in the third period, they've assured us plenty of times that they're issuing the same length suspension in those cases. So it seems like they were confident that this was a 1-gamer. I think it starts at 1 for me. I probably would have gone 2 just because we're hitting those things of not only is it a dangerous play, but this is not at all a hockey play. This is not, 2 guys battling for the puck, a stick gets up, you get an injury, you get bloodied on the play. This is after a goal. This isn't you're looking at a situation where there is nothing good that's coming out of this. You're not making a play on the puck. You are not trying to retain possession. You're not trying to defend. You are assaulting a guy who just scored a goal or whose team just scored a goal. So I think just because of that, because it wasn't part of any competitive part of the game on the ice, I would have tacked on another game. You know what? I could live with 3. If we want to give any infractions an automatic extra game because it happens after a whistle or after a goal, I could even live with that.
I like that idea. That cuts down on the after whistle shenanigans. I suspect is if there's penalties coming, you get a bonus suspension, if you will. Because so this is the Black Friday special. Don't get 1 game, you get 2 for this.
Right.
I think that's a good idea, though.
Act now, we'll tack on an extra game for you. And you know what? I think it makes a lot of sense, right? We don't like the penalties. We don't like the dangerous hits that happen during gameplay. And I don't want to say that we can live with them because the league at Player Safety, they're trying to get those out of the game. They want to protect the players that are on the ice. But the nonsense that happens between the whistles, the nonsense that happens after the goal, I mean, those things I think can be dealt with a little more severely. We've seen certain plays or certain infractions in the rulebook that if it happens, if you have a fight during a game, it's one thing. If it's after the whistle, it could be different. If it's between periods, then you're looking at different levels of penalties there. So I don't think it's entirely revolutionary to pitch that, but I think it's something that if the NHL wanted to clean up the ugly stuff that happens, the unnecessary stuff that happens, especially the dangerously unnecessary stuff after a goal or after a whistle, tacking on an extra game is a quick way to get there.
Absolutely. Okay, an idea that we'll also harp on in the future. There was a judgment call in the Montreal Canadiens and Columbus Blue Jackets game this past week. Game was tied in overtime, and Columbus forward Kent Johnson's skating the puck towards the Habs goal. Pursued by Nick Suzuki, the Montreal captain engages, we'll say, in this particular incident. Johnson goes down. Puck goes back up the ice. Oh, look, Suzuki puts it in the goal. Game over. Columbus coach Dean Evison was, shall we say, not particularly thrilled with how the sequence went down and had some choice words about Brian Pakmara and Mike Sullivan, the referees on the play, who said no whistle was necessary for Suzuki here. I've just seen limited views of this. And again, I think it's a judgment call as to which way it goes. Maybe it looks different from the bench, but the angle I'm looking at it doesn't look that serious.
Yeah, I think I would love to see this from different angles. I've only seen the one side view of it, and you can see Johnson goes down. I mean, he's stumbling, but it looks like he's already starting to lose his footing before Suzuki puts his hand out, and I'll just say hand out because I can't even see that he makes contact with him. It's entirely possible that he goes down without any contact, even if Suzuki's nowhere near him on this play, because it did look like he was losing his footing. And he's trying to hustle after the puck. You slip a little bit, your skates go out from underneath of you, and all of a sudden you're down on the ice. Without seeing that Suzuki actually caused him to fall down, I'd have a hard time calling this one. And we're only looking at it, or at least I'm looking at it right now from one angle across the ice. You've got an official, a trailing official, who's looking at it from a better angle than we have here because he's more towards the back. And then you have the leading official who's looking at it from the front end. They would have had a better line of sight to see if there was contact between Suzuki and Johnson, and presumably to call the penalty, which there was. As a ref, I'm looking at this. I mean, I'm seeing two guys battling for the puck. You're expecting contact to happen, and you're looking for that infraction. So this is one of those plays. It's not like behind the play where you miss a stick. Your focus is on the puck carrier here and the battle for the puck, looking for that hook, looking for that hold, a grab, anything that's going to cause a change of possession. I don't see anything that conclusively tells me that a penalty was deserved on this play, and I have to defer to the officials to say that they had the best view of it. I'm open to it. He could have, but unless we can see it, Todd, I have to go by the call on the ice. And I know it's frustrating when you're the opposing coach, and sometimes you're legitimately frustrated, and sometimes you're just trying to deflect onto somebody else so you're not feeling the blame for the loss, or you're trying to protect Johnson here by, hey, look, my guy fell down, but we're going to focus on the refs made a bad call. Montreal got away with a penalty, and you try to deflect some of that a little bit. And sometimes you're legitimately frustrated with the officials, and sometimes you are just trying to position things for your team. Not sure what this one was, Todd, but I can't definitively say that this was a missed call.
Are you saying that sometimes coaches will manipulate what they say depending on their mood or something that they're trying to do? Is that what you're inferring here?
Look, you don't make it to the NHL as a head coach without that. Yeah.
Well put. Okay, in the same game, there's another incident. This one involving Brendan Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens, who got penalized 2 minutes for slashing. However, to use a phrase we've all heard many times, as the video shows, this may have been something else rather than slashing.
It clearly was. And I look, I know we're always afraid to call the major penalties, and we don't want to see guys get tossed or sit in a box for 5 minutes because you don't want to have that sort of influence on the game as an official. But if you want the players to decide the game themselves, you need to call the crap they're doing on the ice that is deciding the game. And, I'd be frustrated about this one if I were a coach, because a slash is 2 minutes, but a spear is a little bit more. And spearing is stabbing an opponent with the point of the stick blade. If you don't make contact, it's a double minor. If you do make contact, it's a major penalty and a game misconduct. It's a match penalty if you actually injure somebody. But by missing 4 minutes and by making contact, it's 5 in a game. So I understand you don't want to throw a guy out, but that's the rule. That's Rule 62, and it happens more frequently than it is called. I think if they would start calling these spears, we'd see far fewer of them, because obviously Montreal doesn't want Brendan Gallagher out for the rest of the game, and Brendan Gallagher doesn't want to be out for the rest of the game, but he knows he's getting 2 minutes at most for this. So I don't know, Todd. It's one of these ones. I'll just say that not calling these types of plays, it's really nuts.
This is the extreme of let the players play and let the officials stand aside, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, if you're going to let the players play, you call the stuff that they do on the ice. That's the point of the officials. Letting the players play does not mean it's a free-for-all out there. We're not going to call any penalties and everybody can just wreak havoc on each other and get away with murder. Letting the players play within the confines of the rule book and calling it consistently is really what the officials should be doing. And that means 5 in a game to Gallagher on this play.
All right. Well, didn't happen in this particular case. Who knows what happens next week? We'll be back into a more regular routine without a midweek holiday, but I suspect that we'll be back continue the regular routine of always having something to look at.
Good stuff, man. Way to work.
Get in the box. It's the Scouting the Refs podcast. Read more at scoutingtherefs.com. Follow Scouting the Refs on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Email the show at heyref@scoutingtherefs.com.
You're good, Michael.
Subscribe, share, and keep those sticks down.